Any agenda adjustments?
I don't
How about that? I'll move that closer. None?
None.
All right, very good. Okay, and then on the correspondence, resignations, retirements, and nominations.
Yes, I have some resignations to start with, and then I have about 5 nominations to go through. The first one says, "Dear Mr. Molinari, please accept this letter as my formal resignation for the position as music teacher with the Brookline Elementary Schools effective June 21st, 2023. Working for you and our students has been one of the most valuable and rewarding experiences of my life, and I am truly sad to say goodbye. However, my family is moving to the Boston area to be closer to my husband's work, and I feel that it makes sense to pursue the next chapter of my career there as well. I am sincerely grateful to you and our fellow colleagues for all you have done to help me grow as an educator. Your enthusiasm for our school community and genuine compassion for our students inspired my sense of purpose. The respect and value I felt from you empowered me to share that purpose both in and out of the music classroom. You have made a profound impact on me professionally and personally, and I will work hard to honor that in all my future endeavors. I care deeply about the students here, and I want to do whatever I can to ease this transition. Please reach out to me at any time if there is anything I can do to help in the coming year with your support and the support of the school community. I have no doubt that music education will thrive here in Brookline. Once again, thank you for encouragement and friendship over the years. I will always look back on my time here fondly, and I look forward to hearing about the future successes and the successes of our students. And regretfully, from me to Shannon, that is from Shannon St. Clair.
Okay, so I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Shannon Sinclair as music teacher at RMS with an effective date of, did you say June 21st? June 21st, 2023.
I second that.
Thank you for your service, Shannon, and I know my kids enjoyed music, always. Any other discussion?
No, she's been a great music teacher. We will miss her, for sure. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
The second one is, "Dear Mrs. Boulay, I am writing to inform you of my resignation from my position as a 6th grade teacher at Captain Samuel Douglas Academy effective June 30th, 2023. It is with a heavy heart that I am leaving my role as a teacher after 16 years of service. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the entire school community for providing me with the opportunity to grow and thrive as an educator. It has been an honor to work alongside such talented and passionate colleagues and to have had the privilege of teaching and influencing the lives of so many wonderful students. I have decided to pursue a new professional opportunity that will allow me to expand my horizons and take on new challenges. However, I will always cherish the memories and experiences I have gained from my time at CSDA. I will continue to provide my full support and cooperation to ensure a smooth transition from my replacement. My last day of service will be the end of the current school year. Thank you again for your unwavering support and guidance that you have provided me over the years. I wish you and the entire school community continued success and growth," and that is from Tim Putnam.
Okay, I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Tim Putman as a 6th grade teacher at CSDA with an effective date of June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Second. Go ahead.
It's just a huge loss. I mean, I think the sixth grade team at CSDA has been such a strong team and has been just a real asset. I think that's going to be a huge loss, especially, since there are so few male teachers in our district. So,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, there's not much we can do. It sounds like he's got another opportunity that's going to help him grow as a professional, and we'll wish him the best of luck.
And thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Putnam.
Okay, all in favor? 5-0, thanks.
Dear Mr. Molinari and Mr. Corey, I am submitting my formal resignation from my current 3rd grade position at Richard Mahaki Memorial School effective June 30, 2023. I appreciate the experience I have gained from this role at the Brookline School District. I would like to thank you, I would like to thank both of you for the opportunity to be in this position, as I have learned so much and have thoroughly enjoyed working with the Brookline staff. Thank you so much, and that's from Emma Danis.
Okay, so I will make a motion to accept the resignation of Emma Dene as a third grade teacher at RMMS with an effective date of June 30th, 2023. You need a second from someone?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Certainly enjoyed our year with her. Any other discussion?
No, just thank you. Appreciate what you've done for our school community.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Okay. All in favor? I can't see hands very well.
Sorry.
Thank you. 5-0.
Lastly, dear Mr. Corey, I hope this letter finds you well. It is with a mix of emotions that I write to tender my resignation from my position as a fourth grade teacher at CSDA. My last working day will be June of 2023. The decision has not been an easy one to make, as I have thoroughly enjoyed my time at CSDA. The last 2 years have been filled with rewarding experiences, personal growth, and cherished memories. I have had the privilege of working with incredibly talented colleagues and witnessing the remarkable progress of my students. However, after careful consideration, I have decided to pursue a new opportunity that aligns with my long-term career goals and personal aspirations as an educational consultant. I want to express my deepest gratitude to the entire faculty and staff at CSDA. Your unwavering support, dedication, and collaborative spirit have been instrumental in shaping me as an educator. I am grateful for the guidance and mentorship I received during my time here, which has undoubtedly contributed to my professional development. Moreover, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the students and their families. It has been an absolute privilege to be part of their educational journey. Witnessing their growth, enthusiasm, and thirst for knowledge has been the most fulfilling aspect of my role as a fourth grade teacher. I will miss their infectious energy and the joy they brought to my classroom each day. I assure you that I will do my utmost to ensure a smooth transition during this period. I am more than willing to collaborate with the incoming teacher to provide them with any necessary information, materials, or insights that may facilitate their assimilation into the role. Please feel free to reach out to me if there is anything specific I can do to support the transition process. Before I conclude, I want to reiterate my heartfelt appreciation for the opportunity, support, and camaraderie I have experienced at CSDA. I will carry the memories and lessons learned here with me as I embark on a new chapter in my professional journey. Wishing you and the entire school community continued success and prosperity. That is from Melissa Davis.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Melissa Davis as a fourth grade teacher at CSDA with an effective date of June 2023.
I'll second.
Thank you. I don't know her, but I thank her for her service as well.
Yeah.
Same.
Okay, all those in favor? 5-0, thank you.
Okay. I have a group of nominations now. Each of these nominations was selected by a committee at their school, which included administration as well as faculty, and then the candidates that were recommended, the top two, in some situations the top three, were sent over to the SAU for interviews with either the assistant superintendent or myself. So the first candidate is Melissa Brennan, B-R-E-N-N-A-N, for grade 4 at CSDA. She has her bachelor's in psychology from UNH, and she has her master's in elementary ed from Rivier College. She'll be joining us with a master's degree on step 3 with a salary of $51,911.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Melissa Brennan for the position of fourth grade CSDA at a master's, step 3, and a salary of $51,911.
Second that.
Thank you. Discussion?
Welcome.
Welcome, yes. All those in favor? 5-0, thank you.
The next nomination is Julia Oberheiser, O-V-E-R-H-I-S-E-R. She'll be joining RMMS at grade 3. She has her bachelor's in business communication from Fitchburg State, and she has her master's in education and moderate disabilities from Merrimack College. She'll be joining us with her master's step 1 for a salary of $48,931.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Julia Overheiser for the position of grade 3 at RMMS at a master's step 1 and a salary of $48,930.
I second that.
Very good. All those in favor? 5-0.
Welcome, Julia.
Next, we have Patricia Smith. She'll be a case manager at CSDA. She has her bachelor's from Granite State College. She'll be joining us with her bachelor's plus 30, step 5, for a salary of $50,677.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept superintendent's nomination of Patricia Smith for the position of case manager at CSDA at a bachelor's plus 30, step 5, and a salary of $50,677.
A second.
All those in favor? 5-0, thanks, welcome.
Next is Rebecca Hall. She'll be joining us as the school counselor at RMMS. Rebecca has her bachelor's in elementary ed from St. Anselm's College and her master's from the School of Counseling and Psychology from Riviera University. She'll be joining us at master's step 5 for a salary of $55,073.
Okay, make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Rebecca Hall for the position of school counselor at RMMS at a master's step 5 and a salary of $55,073.
Second that.
All those in favor? 5-0, thank you.
And lastly, joining us will be Megan Elwell, E-L-W-E-L-L. She'll be joining CSDA as a 6th grade teacher. She has her bachelor's in elementary ed from Plymouth State University. She'll be joining us at bachelor's step 1 for a salary of $42,032.
Okay, and I will make a motion to accept the superintendent's nomination of Megan Elwell for the position of 6th grade teacher at CSDA at a bachelor's step 1 and a salary of $42,032.
Is this, can I just ask a question? Is this her first year of teaching?
Yes.
Need a second before?
second.
Okay, there we go. Any other questions at all?
Is it common to have a first-year teacher in 6th grade?
I can tell you that I recruited her, and I saw her from across the room and had my eyes set on her, and she followed through every step of the way, and I've been nothing but thoroughly impressed with her. The certification is K6. 6th grade is often middle school, so oftentimes folks are a little bit more nervous about grade 6. But I have full faith and confidence that she can do the job, especially knowing that she will be doing the ELA in social studies and will be paired up with Miss Furbush.
Okay. All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
That's it for nominations and resignations.
Just for clarity, it looks like aside from the music teacher, we've filled all of the other positions we just discussed. Is that accurate?
That's correct, and
Okay.
music just notified us today.
Okay, fair enough. Yep. Very good, thanks. Okay, so we are on to the approval of minutes. First one is April 19th, our organizational meeting. The following amendments were offered. Page 6, line 11, replace American with America. Page 8, line 34, replace of with at. Page 8, line 46, insert and before gone down. Page 10, line 46, correct the spelling of root. And page 11, line 11, replace communicate with community. I'll make the motion to accept as amended. Need a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? 5-0, thanks. Then our non-public that evening, I'll make a motion to accept as presented.
I will second that.
Very good. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay. All right, so that gets us to, we have two public hearings this evening. The first one is our special ed trust. And to do that, I will make a motion that the board recess until the conclusion of the conclusion of the public hearings on the special education trust and retained fund balance. Need a second for that, please?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor? 5-0. So we are going to recess at 6:15 and jump into our public hearing now.
As you know, we've been tracking the special ed cost. We unexpectedly had a large number of move-ins over last summer, and then some identifications that occurred during the year as well as some during the year move-ins. As a result of that, we're projecting the need to use up to $100,000 from the special ed trust. Those costs will be used to offset out-of-district placements that happened in November and one recently, as well as the associated transportation costs that go along with that. By using the special ed trust, we will allow us to bring our special ed balance in line and therefore be able to project a budget surplus to fund the retained fund balance, which is the next piece we'll be talking about in the next public hearing.
Okay. No, okay. So with that, what we traditionally do here is we open the floor for public comment. I will ask for testimony in favor and testimony in opposition 2 times, and then we will close the public hearing for this piece. So we'll start with testimony in favor, if anyone would like to step up. Okay. Any testimony in opposition? All right. Testimony in favor? All right, and testimony in opposition. Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing on the Special Education Trust at 6:17. We're going to move over to our second public hearing then, and that is on our retained fund balance. Are you all set to talk to that, or
Yes.
do I need to do something
No.
else? Okay.
Okay. The retained fund balance, the business manager, Kelly Seeley, is recommending that we utilize those funds for our ADA project. As some people may be aware, we had some students who were moving to CSDA, either from out of district or from RMS. And we had a number of projects that we needed to complete this summer to prepare. Some of those included adjustments to the sidewalk and curbing, updating some of our handicap doors in various sections of the building, and some significant work on the playground to make it sure that it was accessible by all students. The retained fund balance is designed for this type of unexpected expense. The cost of the ADA component was $108,162. Kelly is recommending we use the retained fund balance for that, which will allow us to have a retained fund balance for FY '24. And I'm happy to answer any questions if the board has any. And again, this is something we've been tracking since September, October.
Okay. I will open up the floor for public comment at 6:19 and start with any testimony in favor. Okay, any testimony in opposition? Testimony in favor? And testimony in opposition. All right, we will close the public hearing then on a retained fund balance at 6:19. And bear with me, just procedural stuff here. I know we're coming back into public hearing, okay, we can just jump right back into our,
Do you need a motion to reconvene or anything?
I don't think so, that's what I was trying to confirm here. Yeah, let's just do one. So, we need a motion, I'll make a motion to reconvene our regular meeting at 6:20.
I second that.
Second, all those in favor? Very good. So we're back in our traditional board meeting now at 6:20 PM, and we are on to public input. So, for public input, we'll open it at 6:20, and that will be open for 30 minutes. Each individual has 3 minutes. Speakers may not relinquish allotted time to another speaker. We will recognize speakers, myself in particular, on first come, first served basis. Please identify yourself with your home address for the record, and that's it. There was one other thing I wanted to say, and I'm blanking on it right now, so we'll go ahead and get started. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Casey Petron-Ellis, and I live at 7 Smith Road, Brookline. Good evening to all. I'm really saddened to hear about the devastating loss of the resignation of Mr. Putnam. He is my son's teacher, and he has been a wonderful educator and role model to all the students at CSEA. So I want to thank him for his service, and really sad to see him go. So I just wanted to share that. But I also wanted to express great concern, again, over what appears to be rampant and severe bullying, hate speech, and racism. I understand that we will never be able to eradicate any of these things. However, it is apparent that the severity of these behaviors need to be addressed. At what point do we realize there is a problem? The children are not okay, and the behaviors I am hearing about are abnormal and problematic. I fear that if they are not resolved, we will have a larger problem. I think we can all agree that to some degree or another, we have all experienced some form of racism growing up. However, this is not the same bullying from our childhood. Today's children are exposed to various forms of social media and varying degrees of internet access. To make matters worse, they are growing up in a divisive time in our country. Hate is taught, and while we cannot prevent that from happening, we can create an environment at school where it is not tolerated, and we must openly and aggressively take a stance that is clear to everyone in the school community that the behavior is unacceptable. If you are a parent condoning hatred of others, you're only doing them a disservice, as one day they will likely have to enter into the real world outside of Hollis or Brookline. I have asked numerous times for action to be taken, and I am still waiting for the school and/or the school district to release a statement to the parents in our school community about what has been going on and that it will not be tolerated. Silence is acceptance, and in some cases, silence can result in death. When a child is bullied to the point where it affects their mental health, to the point where they self-harm, to the point they no longer want to go to school, in essence, their childhood has been taken away from them. We need to do better, and we need to take action now. We can no longer bury our heads in the sand, and I just want to thank all of you for your time and your service. Thank you.
Thank you. What I failed to say, what I'm remembering now, is we may not respond to everything in the public input forum. We do have presentations tonight, and where there will be a lot of board discussion as well, so I just want to note that for those in the audience.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Melanie LeBake. I live at 2 McDaniels Drive. And first of all, I want to thank you for the work that you do. It is so important. And you are a trusted board, so I know what it's like to be there, and the decisions that you have to make and the line that you walk. So thank you for that. But I do have to echo the concerns that Casey mentioned. And, you know, I have to say that when I was a young mom and my daughter went to these schools, she had incidences as well. And maybe not as severe as today, but to every child that it happens to, it is severe when they are harassed or bullied or called the N-word. Now, the last time I was called the N-word was when I was in high school. And Scott Marshall never did that. David Marshall. He never said that again. I went right to the principal. We dealt with it. And granted, he was a little bit older, but young people, they get their filters from everywhere. I sit on the board of New Hampshire Civics, and our role is to help bring civics to K through 12. And we're looking at different projects to work on. One of the ones I'm promoting is books for young kids on voting or making choices and making decisions to help children at a young age know that they can make decisions. We talked about other programs, and one of the people on the board said that a program to have kids work together, talk together, interface with each other that wouldn't normally do so was not something that we do in civics. And I said that civics is not just knowing the Constitution or how many representatives you have in your state house, but it's how we interface with each other. And I just implore not only the school board, because I know it's not just your responsibility, but our community to understand that these children are very vulnerable. Even people that are bullies are hurting. So we need to work together and help our community and act as a community to solve these problems. So I thank you for your time and for your work, and I hope that we will give some really serious effort to eradicating, these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Just pause for a moment in case anyone else wants to step up to the mic. If not, that's okay too. Sure.
I didn't prepare to say anything.
Please don't feel like you must.
My name's Erica Hill, and I live at 28 Pigeon Hill Road in Brookline. And I was a little bit troubled to hear from my own daughter just some of the language that she's heard fairly frequently at the school. She did mention to me that she does hear the N-word frequently at school, or jokes that are, racist in nature. And like I said, I was really troubled to hear that from her, especially in a very small community like this. I wouldn't have expected that. I was really upset to hear that is going on. I've heard that from my older kids as well, unfortunately. So I'm not really sure what's going on or why that feels acceptable to the kids to be talking that way. But I do agree with Casey that I feel like more needs to be done, whether that's more training and development or education or just open discussion. But I think something needs to be clearly said related to no tolerance for that type of behavior or that type of language. It feels like it's sometimes maybe brushed off or joked off or kind of sticks and stones, and it's not sticks and stones. So anyway, I just wanted to share my voice there. I definitely share some of the other ladies' concerns as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erica.
Good morning. Nope.
Good evening.
Good evening. Kirsten Zimmerman, 31 Milford Street, Brookline, New Hampshire. I was here last month to talk about bullying. My friend Casey was here in March, to share with you guys her incredibly valid and horrifying realization that her child is being bullied because of the tint of his skin. And last month, while I was here at the school board meeting, there was a lot of discussion about we need to make a statement that needs to get put out to the community quickly so that parents who aren't aware of it can be having conversations with their children about what is acceptable and what is absolutely not ever acceptable way of speaking to somebody or thinking of somebody. What happened to that statement that was going to be made, that was going to be emailed or text, or because when you guys want to send messages out, I get a lot of them on my phone. So why is this real important message not been sent out?
Like I said, right now is your chance to talk to us. We'll we'll have our deliberation in a few minutes.
Okay.
Is that all for you? Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to give you my legal name, so bear with me. My name is Maria Jose Labrania Shapiro. It's a little bit of a mouthful. I live at One Mountain Road in Brookline. I am here to talk about all of this, the bullying, the hate speech. My concern is every child has a right to an education, right? So barring, we have rules set in place, we have, things, laws set in place, but yet it continues. This is a nationwide issue, so I'm not saying it's just a Brookline issue. I get it, right? But as a small community, it is disturbing what's being done. Now, my kid is a 6th grader, part of the Meehan Putnam, which, by the way, a huge loss for the community, not just the school, to have Mr. Putnam leaving. My child is one of the ones that was bullied that Colleen had mentioned at one of the other board meetings. And, she's a good kid, she's a kind kid. And I feel that I've done wrong because I've taught her to continuously be kind and not to defend herself. These kids that are the good kids out there, and they're all good kids, right? Don't get me wrong. Some of these kids don't know how to handle a situation when they're being bullied. They don't know how to conflict manage, okay? So while we're talking about all this bullying, and let's talk about morning announcements, and let's talk about Choose Love program, all of that, which is all great, kids also need to learn about conflict management. As they grow to adults, I'm sorry, that's part of the problem we have in society today. People don't know how to conflict manage, and it's problematic. As a kid, because of my, nationality, I was made fun of. Okay, because of my name, I was made fun of. All right, I was bullied. I was stopped at airports because of my name. So I get it, okay? I may not be your typical, my skin may not be dark for a Hispanic, but I'm 100% Hispanic. When I hear some of the kids talking or making fun of a second language, or kids that are not pronouncing something correctly, it's disturbing. And I come from, I'm a New Yorker, and I experienced that, right? So now I'm coming to a small community, trying to give my kid, a better education, a better, quality of life, and yet we're in a situation where things are not, there's no consequences to some of these actions. And that's what kind of concerns me. Or I get, I always ask, how did school go? Well, 20 minutes was the teacher trying to, deal with a handful of kids that were not paying attention or being disruptive. That's a problem. Right? That is a huge problem. So it's not, it's more than, the hate speech, it's there. But what else are we going to do? The Choose Love program, yes, it's a great program, but it's not enough. So what are we going to do? And I'm sorry, kids need to have consequences. There need to be consequences to these actions. Telling one kid to go sit somewhere else or do, that's not the answer because you're not resolving the situation. And sorry, see, my heritage comes through. I get a little passionate about things, so sorry. But again, I want people to understand, you have a group of parents and community members that care about these kids. We want them to thrive. My kid is leaving the district. She's going to middle school, right, next year. Which is nerve-wracking alone, but I'm still a member of this community. So these kids that are growing up, that we have in this district are eventually going to be adults in this community. So as a community member, that concerns me as well. So not just as a parent, I'm looking as a member of this community. You know, and to just kind of echo things that Mr. Putnam talks about in his class, is he strives to make, you know, to help these kids become good citizens. And that should be our job too. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Karen Jew, Old Milford Road. I guess I wasn't going to speak on this particular topic, but it seems like it's a pretty important one. I know there's a lot of hand-wringing about parental rights. I feel like there's some abdication of parental responsibilities, and that has fallen to the school to kind of take that on. At the beginning of this year, it was articulated to students on kind of a new behavioral plan with consequences. I know some of the younger kids came home and were talking about it at the beginning of the year. Are there success stories from this program that maybe we don't get to see all the consequences, and that's hard too, but are there things that have resulted from this new plan? Or is this going to come in like maybe the end of year wrap up next month, or ways that you're going to build upon that for next year, that maybe some of these things are being addressed? Maybe there's a lot more work to be done, but has there been some parts of that that have worked? I know that was new this year. The other thing I was going to talk about is one, I love this space, it looks fabulous. I saw the climate study and the beginning of that, and part of it was I like the score on the institutional vulnerability, and I want the board to keep in mind how to help the administration and staff make sure that there are healthy boundaries with families, so that maybe like a new teacher doesn't feel overwhelmed by some of, you know, intense parental requests all the time. That's something I thought about. That's all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay, thank you for your input. Appreciate everyone coming, and I know this is a challenging topic, so thank you for sharing your stories. We are going to go right into our principal's report and talk about some of the climate survey data that Karen just brought up.
Karen, can you not respond?
What's that?
Can you not respond?
I mean, if you would like to, we can now. We have in our deliberations, we'll be talking about this. You certainly can if you'd like to now, though. I have no qualms about that at all. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to. So, there's a lot of work to be done, and I know we've been seeing a lot of repeated faces, we're seeing a lot of new faces, we're getting a lot of communication, and I just want to reiterate that we hear it, we know how important it is. I have been doing an immense amount of research from a policy perspective, looking at the Brookline policy, and we're gonna get into some of these things, and I just want you to know, because I heard the question asked, is anything being done? And yes, I think I know we are all committed on this board to working through this problem, and what we have going on, and to speak to, knowing that our children are going to come up and be community members later. It's important that we as adults are setting boundaries for them now. And while, the First Amendment protects freedom of speech, not all speech is protected. And, it was clear in Harper versus Poley United School District that school officials can limit that speech within schools. And when I started digging into policies, and I looked at a variety of bullying policies in our neighboring towns and throughout New Hampshire, ours, and we will talk about this, but I want you to know that I believe ours is weak in terms of the language. And a real good example of that is, Bedford's is incredibly strong. And I want to read just a quote from it, if that's okay, just because I want you to know that we hear this, we are taking this seriously, and these are going to be very big points of discussion. it says in their bullying policy, students who are found to have engaged in bullying will be subject to disciplinary action. Students who support bullying through laughter, encouraging comments, and/or apparent approval of intimidating behavior will also be subject to disciplinary action under this policy. And I think that speaks to ensuring that we're addressing not just the aggressors, but those who are quietly supporting it. And there is a lot in their policy that I've like highlighted and I've shared with my colleagues. But I'm putting that out there because I want you to know that we are hearing you and that I know each of us individually are doing our due diligence because we understand that change needs to happen. It's hard because it's not overnight. And I know we've discussed that before and I know we're going to get into more deliberations. But I just want to thank everybody because there is a community of support. It's just, it's going to take a little bit of time to make sure we are doing the right things so that we are supporting all students, and we just, there's a lot of legwork that needs to go into this to ensure that it's fair and it represents all students. So I wanted to just say thank you, but also let you know that I've got pages here of links and research, and I've shared it, and I know others have done the same, and you know, we're with you, and we hear it, and you are not being unheard.
If I could just have a minute too, and then I'll try to be focused. I can't right now comment on the teacher resignations, but I'll contact them individually. I think I just need to concentrate on kids right now. But thank you for your service. It's a lot to hear all at once. In regards to the incidents that have been occurring and keep on occurring and might be occurring more frequently, there is a roadmap for schools on this. It's very clear. The Anti-Defamation League puts out responding to bias incidents in middle and high school. The reason it's middle and high school is because you wouldn't expect kindergartners or first graders to be using those words, but in our district, they are. So this is a roadmap that literally starts with, and this was discussed at a previous meeting, a peace framework. So you really take a look at what is our district doing and what are we not doing? And that's where you can start. And then if you have an incident of some of the ones we've had of using a specific biased word, like the word that was used here, how do we teach kids about that? I don't care if parents are angry when we teach kids about the history of the N-word. Let them come in here and try to defend that. But it's our job to protect kids, and it needs to be done. So I would ask that, and I will give this to administration, that we look at this very carefully. We consider the ADL is willing to work with schools. This is their job. They have a department specifically for this. They can guide us in this. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to say it's not rocket science, but it's not. There are things that have been proven to work, just like with math intervention, with reading intervention, but this is so much more serious. And I think what I'm hearing is that there's a vicious cycle of kids hearing these words at home, likely, some kids, because they don't come out of anywhere, out of nowhere, and then we're having other kids who might not understand the meaning of the word, then repeating it. So one of the things that's discussed in here is you need to handle each incident individually too, to really look at the student. But what is clear is there are students who are learning these atrocious words in their home. So I have no control over that, but we do have control over how that is responded to when we have victims in the community. I still support a strong statement also on this. I think some parents have no idea this is being said because they don't listen to our meetings. And I really continue to advocate. I know we only have 3 weeks left of school, but we need to figure out if our kids are feeling safe. We're assuming they're feeling safe, and I'm only one parent with 2 kids, and one of my kids might feel very safe, my other might not. So how do we know? Do we have any data? And what are we afraid of by collecting data? We collected data for our staff because and the results acknowledge that we have some issues to work on. We need and owe it to our students to do the same. So That's my piece.
Thanks. Oh, sorry.
I just want to say one thing. I didn't have anything prepared, but I was listening to a very interesting webinar, and I just want to say there's a piece of information that says explicit conversations with 5 to 7-year-olds about interracial friendships can dramatically improve their racial attitudes in as little as a single week. So something that you said of that's for middle and high schoolers. Kindergartners pick up these racial attitudes. I have a kindergartner, and unfortunately, we've experienced some of these things, and as a parent, I was shocked and appalled. So I just want to say that there's another piece of data that I saw that said by kindergarten, children show many of the same racial attitudes that adults in our culture hold. So what in our culture are we going to show our children that by the time they're in kindergarten, they hold those attitudes?
I just wanted to echo what you have said as parents and community members, and also what other board members have said here tonight. And I think it's really important, not that I don't think that everything is equally serious. I do think that there's a pathway for dealing with bullying. And I think bullying behavior is very described set of behaviors and characteristics and a pattern of behavior, whereas hate speech or using racially disparaging words or other discriminatory remarks based on someone's cultural background, their skin color, their country of origin, what they wear, how they speak, it can happen one time and it's wrong and it's disgusting to have children being referred to as animals based on racial stereotypes, children being called the N-word, or the N-word being used as a joke, on a school bus or on the playground. And as Allison said, having kids laugh at it, maybe they don't understand what it means and they know it's outrageous, and so they kind of just are laughing because someone's getting away with saying something that they suspect is bad. But I think it's really important to make the distinction that, I think there is a whole body of research and educational tools to deal with bullying, and that's, repeated behaviors that happen over a period of time. And I don't want to lump these racial incidents and this racially charged environment that our schools are becoming in with bullying, because it doesn't take a repeated pattern of behaviors. It takes one child to say one thing, and that should be addressed immediately. And I agree there should be communication coming out from the schools. And if there's not communication coming out from the schools, then I think we as a board need to draft a statement that we send out independent of the schools. Because I do think that parents have now, for the 3rd month, come to the board to ask us to intervene. And I think we should do that. I think that if the community doesn't know that this is a problem, yes, they do have access to our minutes and to our, meeting recordings, but I think it's important that the parents and children of this community, as well as our community members, understand that we hear you and we are taking this very seriously as a board, and that it's unacceptable. So.
I will say the New Hampshire Department of Ed does actually include actions motivated by people's actual perceived race, color, religion, national origin, ancestry, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and it goes on. It is covered under the bullying laws. Mm-hmm. So while yes, there is a distinction, when we go and we rework bullying policy, we will be referencing, I would like to believe the law put out, that it has that very explicit language, because while yes, bullying is multiple times, when we redo our policies, we can establish the consequences that come.
Yep.
Even after one incident. So I just want to share that with you because it is part, it has come out back from the New Hampshire Department of Education.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for stopping me there. I was going right into what we're going to talk about this right now, but I appreciate you stopping me there, so thank you. I expect us to have a fairly interactive dialogue here as we look through this as well, and we'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. For our principal report, we have a presentation, but first, in your packets, we have the enrollment currently in Brookline. We're right under 600 for both, in total for both RMS and CSDA. And then on the opposite side are just the upcoming events that we have going on in Brookline. Just recently, we welcomed a little over 70 kindergarten students for our kindergarten screenings. And those happen down at our lower level. And we have just started our end of the year assessments for grades K through 3. And I'll turn it over to Mrs. Boulay so she can share what's happening at CSDA.
Well, we wrapped up our SAS testing, so parents will be able to identify and look at their students' results from that online. And we do have, the CSDA book fair started this week, so there was lots of happy students with walking around with bags of books all this week, which has been nice. And we were also having our Memorial Day program, so that's something that CSDA has done in the past, and it's nice to be able to bring it back this year, so we appreciate that.
Curious, I saw something about this, so I just have a question on the third graders going to fourth grade. I think there's something planned in the summer. Is that what the plan is there? Could you
Yes.
speak to that just real briefly?
Yes, just like we did last year in August, I'll send a notification out to the incoming fourth grade parents.
Okay.
Well, they'll be coming in as fourth graders, and we will have a day where the parents will be able to bring their students in, and we'll give them a tour.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
So in addition to that, Mrs. Boulay and I met today after school and we walked the trails behind CSDA. We're working on a little field trip for the third graders to go to CSDA and just experience the outdoors around CSDA. And at that time, Mrs. Boulay will come visit the third graders, but they'll have a chance to travel in the Dove Woods, I think it's called. So the wolf.
The Dove Woods.
No, don't.
The wolf.
Got it.
The Wolf Trail.
Mr. Dove.
So we're gonna be doing that, I think, June 8th. We're working on plans for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so, we good?
Yep.
Right now, we have a presentation to share with everybody here. This is in response to the last meeting, and we put together a presentation just to give more of an overview, just to address some of the comments that were shared at the last meeting, and we wanted to address as best as we could in response to that. So first, we're gonna start with a little, just a little slideshow of some, just pictures of things that have happened throughout this year that support our presentation, just to kind of give some images before we go into the presentation. So I'll start that right now. And then Mrs. Boulay will get to present it. And this is just a 3-minute quick video. Sorry, I wasn't shaking that. So that song addresses some of the behaviors that we talk about on a daily basis with students. Now we're going to get into some recognition at both RMS and CSDA. We have the Blue Jay Awards at RMS, and then we have the PAW at CSDA.
A lot of the pictures you'll see also are students working on the STEM projects for the STEAM fair that we had this year at both CSDA and RMS. We had collected more cardboard this year than you could imagine. But the students really worked collaboratively, and they really were successful, and they had fun. And the best thing was when all the parents and the community members come to both schools to see exactly how creative the students were.
And some of these pictures are here from our third grade heritage project, where each student gets to share their heritage in December, and our whole school has the opportunity to go through and visit each of the student stations, and then it ends with they all bring samples of food from their heritage, so it's a nice project. And this right here is a presentation of the Tiger group from Plymouth, and then you also saw an assembly where we had students presenting from third grade about teamwork and kindness to our whole school.
Those are the trophies for the annual turkey trot each year. And we also had the food drive. Who's that? That was us.
All right, so we will head into our presentation.
All right,
Who else do you look
You need the microphone.
Oh,
Carry them on? Oh, I will carry them on. Give enough slack there.
that's fine.
Here, why don't you
Take that one.
In response, last month for our board meeting here, we had a really great conversation. We took notes as far as what your requests were, and so we're trying to give you an overview here. So basically, it's how do we respond to interventions, and also our social and emotional learning. The presentation tonight, we'll look at some of the key policies that we're always referring to, our current practices, our plans for FY '24 as well as FY '25. These are some of the related policies that we're constantly referring to that key for our success.
So at RMS, for SEL, Social Emotional Learning, we do this on a daily basis, so lessons take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. Typically, they happen in the morning when students arrive to school, just to set the tone for the day. It's a time where the teachers and students talk about their expectations. They'll also reflect on the day before, and oftentimes talk about what's to come for that day. Often, our teachers also use literature quite often to address topics such as kindness, self-care, self-love. Students also have time to journal through writing prompts, discussions and drawings and skits, just to continue to reflect on those areas. And lots of class discussions as things come up. And every classroom has their own classroom behavior system in addition to our school-wide system of supports. A lot of our students some of our students need some of those sensory breaks, or just time to become more self-aware and take time to reflect on how their day is going. So a lot of our teachers have a classroom break zone, so that students can maybe go to that zone and fidget for a little bit just to get themselves ready to go for the next assignment, or they might walk along our sensory pathways in our hallways, just so they're getting their engines ready for the next set of learning activities. And then, so we covered that. Ms. Blair.
And at CSDA, we do use the Choose Love Basically, we use it to teach the themes of courage, compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. We also present every morning through the morning announcements, focusing each month on one of those key areas. And we give, sometimes, for instance, this month we're talking about mental health awareness. And the calendar that is provided through the program will give hints or key strategies that students and staff can do or conduct during the day. And it's something that helps to trigger for the rest of the day, that teachers can talk about that theme for the remainder of the day. In grades 4 through 6, they focus typically on a morning meeting, or some grades have it at a little later time in the day, and to discuss SEL issues. They also read books aloud, and or any issues that are concerning in the classroom. We'll have those discussions. Class lessons, discussions, and assemblies were conducted this year with myself and the guidance counselor, and regarding friendship, communication, bullying, the growth mindset lessons focusing on perseverance, flexibility, empathy, resilience, and optimism. And also for grades 5 and 6 this year, we also were introduced to the one trusted adult that was provided by the DOE. And that was provided during week-long lessons for guidance. And the program is basically that every single student should have at least one trusted adult in their life. It could be a parent, an aunt, an uncle, it could be a teacher, a coach, or a peer or a sibling. And they basically each student has what's called a ripple journal. And it would go through the different areas of compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, and cooperation. And the students would be able to reflect on their ideas in the discussion.
So at the school-wide level, at RMS, we pass out birthday pencils just to recognize all students throughout the year when it's their birthday. The students love seeing that. We come around with a birthday pencil, a sticker. We sometimes dance in the classrooms. Every Friday we announce students who receive Blue Jay Awards, and they receive it for being responsible, being kind, being respectful, being safe. And we also do a morning news, and Mrs. Sinclair spearheaded this the last 2 or 3 years with our third graders. So every morning during morning meeting, the students love this. We have a little news station. We've shared it before in past board meetings. It almost looks like WMUR. That's how well done it is. And the students are the news anchors. They're interviewing students around the building, and a lot of the SEL components that we talk about in the classrooms are reinforced in the news. In September, we do the flagpole ceremony, and that's what you saw in the beginning with the singing. That's a wonderful event that we've been doing for the past 8 years or so, where we recognize all new staff, all new students, and we do the Pledge of Allegiance. It's just one way to get the whole school community together. In September, we did an assembly this year. It was great to have all students together and staff, now that we can congregate together as a whole group, and we talked about school expectations school-wide. We talked about bus rules, we talked about rules for recess, we talked about rules in the hallway, just to set the tone for the start of the school year. And then those are reinforced throughout the year, whether that's through the morning news or on the daily announcements or in the classrooms. In October, we invited Tiger, and this year we had the Kindest Speaks performance. In years past, we've had ones on bullying. And we are planning on having Tiger come back again next year in Brookline as well. And that's through Plymouth State University. They have their master's degree program present around the state. In November, our third graders, there was an image earlier in the presentation, a third grade class presented on teamwork to the whole school, and they did a skit. In January, we started our Reading Buddy cooperative groups. So our kindergartner students in second grade classes joined together and had buddies, and first grade students and third grade students got together and buddied. And those classes will meet throughout the year, and they'll read together, they'll do activities outside together. But in January, we started planning our STEAM project together. So they worked together on those STEAM projects that you saw in the video earlier. In February, we recognized Acts of Kindness Week. In March, we had the Hip Hop and Hawks from Londonderry come. In April, we had a presentation on hallway and recess behavior, just to reinforce those expectations. And then in May, we are currently doing a food pantry challenge. Mrs. Winters has worked hard on this for the past 6 years or so. And we have donations coming always to our building to support the Brookline Food Pantry. And right now, we have a challenge that's going to be going on for the month of June. So whatever class brings in the most items, they will get a free recess for Mrs. Winters and I. And then in June, we have the end of the year assembly. We do a slideshow. We do a clap out ceremony for all the third graders. They're recognized in the slideshow, and then everybody gives those students a high five. We also recognize all of our teachers and all of the teachers that are departing.
All right, and at CSDA, we have, as I mentioned, the morning announcements where we announce the birthdays every day. We also have weather news. Sixth graders love to come up and provide weather and little jokes of the day. We have the Wolfpack Par Awards on a weekly basis. And then we have our different assemblies. In September, we actually had 2 assemblies reviewing and going over and explaining the school-wide expectations and behaviors. In October, I worked with various classes in working where the students actually put together skits and created posters that we could hang around the auditorium, the gym and the cafeteria regarding courage and communication, the importance of communication, how to communicate, and the effects of bullying. November, we worked with the Choose Love with Gratitude, and we talked about the food pantry collection. I also forgot to put up here about that we have our turkey trot. So again, it's trying to get all these activities are to create a sense of community, but have a message that we are directing and providing and guiding to our students. In December, it was having the courage to respond in love, how to respond to individuals properly. And we also take part in the Share Socks collection, as well as we write cards for the military, and the military challenge each year. And again, you can go read through here all the different assemblies that we've done. And again, this year was the first time that CSDA took part in the STEAM assembly and the STEAM fair. Again, working collaboratively in different groupings to work alongside with RMMS for another community event where we're able to have parents come in and see the success that students are creating and managing each day. And this month we will be, as I said, on Friday we'll be doing a Memorial Day service, which I'm really excited to teach the children what is Memorial Day. It's different than Veterans Day, and what is the true meaning of a true hero. And in June, we'll be having our grade 6 science fair, again, bringing that back for something that hasn't occurred in the past 3 years, and our grade 6 promotion and our field day for the community.
So in the package that we showed earlier we passed out a packet with some supporting documents. This is just an image of what's in your packet. So on the first page is the RMS expectations grid, and then you'll see on the reverse side is the CSDA expectations. These are the whole school expectations. So we break it down by each area of the building. These are the expected behaviors we're looking for in the classroom, in the hallway, in the bathroom, on the bus, at recess, when we go on field trips, assemblies. And these are all worked in on a daily basis, whether through the announcements, through the morning news, through morning meeting, just to reinforce the expectations for students. We've been currently, the last few months, we've been working on, as a staff, taking the expectations from our whole school grid, but making them more student-friendly, so that all students, because there's a lot there, but we want to make it more student-friendly so that's easier to understand at a younger student level. So,
Okay. All right, so then we have our school counseling program. Basically, the curriculum addresses the collaborative for academics, social, and emotional learning, which is called the CASTLE domains. Which is right up here. Basically, it brings in together teaching students about self-awareness, self-management, relationships, skills, responsible decision-making, and basically it's direct instruction as well as hands-on application. There might be the small activities that they would do, particularly with the guidance counselors. And it's also broken down, guidance counselors meet with either whole class this year, for both RMMS and CSDA. They've been teaching week-long lessons by classroom. Otherwise, it would be once a month, and in small groups, individual, or even a lunch bunch. And it's broken down to tier 2 and tier 3 groupings.
Also in your packet, in our student parent handbook, we have a section on student conduct and expectations and guidelines. And with that, towards the end of our student handbook, that's where we list our level 1, level 2, and level 3 discipline and conduct procedures. So it's an outline, it's a guide, and we use this to identify the behaviors that we're dealing with, and also how about we're going to intervene, and also the consequences that we have a menu to choose from based off of the progressive discipline that we can put into place. But again, it's broken down, and it's more specific in your handout by level 1. What is a level 1 behavior? What's a level 2? And a level 3.
Dan, is that what Karen had referenced earlier in the public input with being new this year? Or has that been going on?
No, I think that was probably referring to the behavior, the matrices that we had created.
This thing?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Then we also have in the student handbook the positive discipline pathways to self-control. So basically, we want to have proactive discipline, establishing positive relationships between each child and teacher, and create it where they will create, model, and practice the rules in the classroom or in other environments. Some of the pathways, though, are simply reminding and redirecting. Again, you know, students at this age need to hear things constantly in order for them to really understand and be able to establish that as a norm. Having logical consequences, such as you break it, you fix it, or clean it. Apology of action, teaching students even at this age, even in grades 4, 5, and 6, the importance of communication and what an apology is and why is an apology important and when should that apology occur. Also, loss of privileges, or telling a student you need to take a break, and understanding when a child needs to take a break. Again, it's training for the teachers, but it's also training of the student for them to understand when a teacher says you need to take a break, it's to help them, it's to help guide them in their abilities. Take a break. In some classrooms, they have a buddy, they might go to a buddy classroom, meaning a co-teacher or a partner teacher. Sometimes just a change of environment for a child will help them. Involving the principal or administrator if they need to. Developing individual behavior plans for students, which we do quite frequently. And also involve additional assistance. It could be bringing in the guidance counselor, the school psychologist, or special ed administrators.
And then in your packets as well, we've included.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, can I ask a question? Sorry, it's me.
Oh, sorry.
How long have we been following this positive discipline pathways to self-control? Is this kind of a general kind of school behavior modification?
I've done it all. Since I've been here, we've been following for the past 3 years. And I'm
Yeah, it's
assuming
been in the handbook for the past 3 years.
And have we made any modifications, you know, based on how we've come back from COVID, or during COVID, or pre-COVID, or is this one?
So every year we do reflect on the handbook and we update it. We're certainly going to be doing the same in June as well. And certainly from whatever feedback we have from tonight's meeting or any future meeting, we'll take that into consideration when we're revising the handbook.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just so you know, I'm not sure if you're aware, I just began here when we were in COVID in 2020. So obviously, it changed as far as what we were seeing as students returned from COVID.
And then in the packet, there's what we use for our internal use of behavioral referral forms. So if there's a major incident, those are the forms that are used by staff to write that up, and then they're addressed. There's also minor forms that are typically handled in the classroom. Once they continue, if that behavior continues, then after 3 or so, they come to the administration. We've put in there what a bullying investigation form looks like and all the steps of our investigation, so you have that as a reference. And then at both RMS and CSDA, we have a crisis escalation response, and what this is if there's a crisis in the school with a student, or say there's a student that might be bolting, or we have to go into what we call a clear hallways annex, where we shut down a hallway to provide privacy for that student. It lists the guidelines that we follow, the protocols that we follow to address that situation in more depth. And then this is our flow chart, our PLC flow chart. PLC is our professional learning community flow chart. This map shows how we go about addressing Tier 1 instruction, how we address Tier 2 instruction, and Tier 3 instruction. Every 6 to 8 weeks, our PLCs or our teachers meet as a data team to discuss all student data based off of local assessments, such as Ames Web, observations in the classrooms. If there's concerns and students need to be evaluated, we bring that up as a student referral. So it goes, and then it goes into what Tier 2 supports look like, and that's where Tier 2 would be, they may be seeing the reading specialist or a math specialist for additional support. They might be seeing the guidance counselor as well. And then Tier 3 is typically our special education services.
Can I ask a quick question? You start looking at like the Tier 2 and the extra supports and interventions and stuff. As you've gone through this, do you have enough adult support for the students that you are identifying to be able to effectively assist our kids? Honestly, like, do you have enough adult support in the building to do this?
So that's something we've been working on, I feel, for the past few years. It's something that we bring up every year that, you know, we can definitely use more hands. You know, we have to work within the budget constraints. We do the best we can to see all students. And we do the best we can to maximize that schedule. So sometimes it's to the point where sometimes we've had to use, like right now, Mrs. Murray, she teaches library in the morning, right? We have a group of students that might not be able to see the reading specialist because she's seeing our lowest, you know, struggling readers. So Mrs. Murray might take a group on an off time that she has. That's just an example, but that's something that we are continuing to look at, you know, at the administration about how we can close that gap more. We're working on what we call MTSSB. It's multi-tiered system of supports. And we're looking at what areas that we need to address further, and then trying to figure out what staff we need. Do we need another reading specialist? Do we need, you know, another behavioralist? You know, so we have to look at where those interventions that we need that we're lacking and address it that way. But we have to work within the budget too. So.
Yes.
And we've also had the issue when you come to the Tier 2 for intervention for instance, for reading or for math, as far as being able to hire paraeducators. That is an issue that we have had over the past 2 years, so that definitely has affected that. But we've, again, done as best we can.
No, and I'm not doubting you've done the best you can with what you have. I'm just genuinely want to know, like, because I've seen this work when you have the right number of hands on deck. And so I just wanted to know if you feel you have the support you need, or if you are lacking and there's a gap, and there's clearly a gap. So, thank you.
Does behavior, can you define what, is behavior like just acting out of class, or is it things like bullying and some of the concerns raised that would follow these interventions here? I'm trying to find gaps from what we're hearing to what we're seeing in this, so I'm just curious.
As far as the behaviors, I think in this area, it would typically be individuals who have been identified with consistent behavior problems.
Is that, so behavior problems, is that like throwing things, or is it like if a kid's bullying consistently, or a student is using language that is concerned, like, does that fall into that too, or no?
Can I jump in? So when we look at behavior, we have to look at behavior the same way we look at the spectrum for academics, let's say, right? You're looking at the skills and what are the expectations and the developmental skills that we would expect from students behaviorally. So that's going to be a spectrum of behaviors. What we're looking at, and you'll see it in a few slides, is really resetting student expectations and student behaviors coming out of what the pandemic was and those pieces, and how we can address that in the school from a whole building perspective down into the individual classrooms. So what you're going to hear about with the implementation development of the MTSS process is us, there's going to be a lot of committee work and research and development over the summer to be able to address the behavioral interventions from the students who are disruptive, throwing pencils around the room, to students who have more challenging behaviors within the classroom. And that can, and this is the work that we're doing, and that's going to kind of run into data that we need to collect, looking at the data from this year with the behavioral pieces we've seen from these referral forms, and using that information to drive what our interventions are. And that needs to be a more comprehensive process for the behavior aspect of the MTSS and this PLC flow chart, because we are seeing different students. We're seeing different behaviors than we've seen. We're seeing things from even just a student's attention span in the classroom. That's changing, that's evolving. So how do we address that and help support our teachers for Tier 1 instruction with those regards to build those capacities, those routines, those expectations? Giving students the sense of their ownership, both their individual ownership as a person and as a student, their place in a classroom, their place in a school, having them recognize and value what that means in all those different levels. And that's the work that we're looking, that we started already and that we'll be building upon over the summer to implement to beef up this process even more comprehensively. And so I know that doesn't fully, I just wanted to kind of give an overview of where we are, but the behaviors vary from a student calling out in class. They're going to vary to a student tapping someone else's desk. They're going to vary to, to again, more behaviors that are louder and disruptive and those pieces.
So,
sorry.
if a student's bullying, does that follow this, or are you rolling up multiple types of behaviors, and then we take that data and that becomes, or is it both?
It should be both.
Okay.
And then Allison, I was going to, okay.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to share that of the levels, to your point about staffing, it's the Tier 2 that we're going to be focusing more on to get this for it, so.
Correct.
And I don't know, but since we're talking about Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 in response to what Lauren said, and I don't think Lauren knows everybody here, so she's
I
the
do, yeah.
director
Well, I mean,
of
I know,
special
I don't know if you know
education,
me,
so
but I know
somebody was
everybody.
asking me. This is tremendous work the schools are doing. I think after reading all of this, what's missing is the Tier 1, consistent application of a social emotional learning program. So what happens if you don't address reading on Tier 1, you're going to get more, or you don't do it appropriately, you're going to get more kids in Tier 2. And I do see that, I understand we're trying to choose love when we can, but the district is really responsible for deciding what is the SEL programming. And Castle, who was quoted here, seems to be using their curriculum, I'm not sure what that is, for Tier 2 and Tier 3, which is wonderful, but there's really Tier 1 missing. And I can, this is just my guess, but if you're not teaching everybody the behaviors and in a consistent way, sometimes it's just like swimming upstream. So that's my take, is that we need a consistent social emotional learning program for Tier 1 for all kids. Otherwise, we're going to continue to spend a lot of money on Tier 2 and Tier 3.
Right.
And a lot of angst for our kids, for our staff, for our administrators. So that's, sorry, probably not the appropriate time or place to say that, but we were talking about Tier 1, Tier 2, and somebody asked, what is the gap? And that's what
Well, that's where my question was. That I wasn't asking necessarily to get, but that was my thinking too. So I think we're on this, very aligned
Yeah.
on this, so that was where I was going
It's a
to.
good segue to our
Yeah.
next slide.
Okay, thank you.
So we're gonna go a little deeper, so it's more about what is Tier 1 instruction and intervention. So Tier 1 is core instruction, it's delivered through differentiated universal approaches, school-wide behavior interventions, SEL programming, teachers and counselors, whole class instruction, aims at benchmarking for all students in the fall and spring. Students receiving Tier 2 intervention will be benchmarked in the winter as well. And then Tier 2 is supporting instruction with targeted interventions through individual or small groups. So what that looks like is the guidance counselor is taking that Tier 2 group and doing some small group, cooperative play, friendship, working on friendships, working on social awareness skills and self-management. Students are progress monitored to ensure intervention is effective and appropriate. So like again, we meet every 8 weeks are those interventions working? If not, then we need to look at the tools that we're using, look at the programs we're using, and do we need to switch it up? Or do we need to increase the frequency of how many times those students are meeting? We often address all of this during what we call win time. It's what I need time. Every single grade level has that built into their day. And all students will either see a teacher, an interventionist, a specialist, or a counselor. And then Tier 3 is the intensive intervention, one-on-one supports. It's typically for your students that are achieving at a little bit lower level, whether that's academic or social emotional.
So just then to qualify, like just to help me understand, what is the core instruction being delivered in SEL? Is it, and we mentioned CASEL framework for Tier 2, and I get that. I don't know what curriculum is being used for Tier 2, but that's, I guess, another question. But it seems like at RMS you mentioned something about 10 minutes a day of maybe choose love, I don't know. But at CSDA, it's largely in the announcements. And then I saw a lot of, when issues come up, we use the principles of choose love. And this is nothing, this is just a comment on standard practice that I don't think is being used in here, but in order for any of social emotional learning to be effective, it needs to be consistently applied grade to grade, so that we're teaching self-awareness, we're teaching those 5 principles, and we're making sure all kids hit that. So if a child is in a classroom where there are no problems with kids being self-aware, which is great, they might not get the lessons on self-awareness. So I think we're missing a framework, but I want to make sure I'm not just reading into this, so.
Right, I think right now, at least for this past year, we've had guidance counselors pulled in as part of a special. So they've been working on week length per class.
And are those
grade
using?
level. So she would be using the same background foundation skills, but tying in with the Choose Love themes.
I guess I would just say that just based on my work with CASEL and having attended events and understanding this, that this is all great things that are happening and it's benefiting some kids, but in order for it to benefit others, it's really supposed to be done as part of the classroom routine. And once every 6 weeks with a guidance counselor doesn't cut it. And that's not anybody's fault, but this is actually really super helpful for understanding, and I hope we all agree, that there's a gap here. And I think we've been avoiding this for some time, and our survey kind of indicates that we're responding too much to small groups in the community. And there are groups in the community that don't understand social emotional learning necessarily and are against it, but our kids need it. So I think Tier 2, Tier 3, wonderful. We need to make sure you're fully staffed for sure for that. But Tier 1 is just not happening the way it's best. Best for time, best for money, best for you guys being able to have your own time to use instead of constantly responding to disciplinary incidents and bullying allegations and all of that.
Yeah, and Colleen, just so you know, for next year,
Yeah.
For the past 2 years, we've had our guidance counselors as a special, which has taken them out to be readily accessible throughout the day. So, but for next year, that's changing, where the guidance counselor will not be in that special unit. They'll be available throughout the day to go in and do lessons, to be more available for small group instruction.
But,
So-
okay, I mean, and that's
It
where I
doesn't
think we
really
need to
address it
talk
all,
about,
yeah.
like, just, I don't want to get into, but like, yeah, the guidance counselors are tier 2 and tier 3, but the teachers really need to understand this. They need to be, this needs to be a daily intervention in many ways, in most programs that I'm aware of. And a lot of it, teachers don't have to do a lot of work. There's programs that you can put, that are already put together. And I don't know about Choose Love, but I don't know if they're supported by Castle or not. So anyway, that was just an answer to it. That was a very long answer to a short question. I apologize. I'll listen now.
I just wanted to ask a question of Mrs. Boulay, because I'm not, obviously, I don't have children in either of the districts anymore, or any of the schools in the lower elementary schools. But I think I heard that there was like an absence of the guidance counselor for a good portion of the school year. And so I guess that is concerning to me when hearing how much of what's occurring at CSDA is dependent on the guidance counselor. And it was just my understanding that a good portion of the year there wasn't a guidance counselor at CSDA. And so I guess I'm concerned that like maybe some of the problems that we're seeing now are a result of like not having a guidance counselor in the building and not being able to implement some of these plans.
Well, let me just tell you, so, yes, the guidance, just so people know that the guidance council was out on medical. And it was a plan, so we knew that she was going to be out in early December. We started interviewing in October. And every time we thought we got somebody, they would say, no, changed my mind. And a lot of people that did apply were people who had retired. And I think that because they had gone through the past 2.5 years and they went into retirement, they said, oh, maybe I don't want to come back in. But unfortunately, we weren't able to hire somebody until March. And so basically, I was pretty much the guidance counselor as far as going into the classroom and doing the curriculum every afternoon for about a month and a half. And so that was the reality, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say unfortunately. I had a nice time. It really gave me an opportunity to really meet with all the students on an individual class basis.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that we couldn't fill that position for you and for our students.
Are there any more questions? We can go more deeper.
I have one more, I guess.
Okay.
Is the tier 1, 2, 3 approach looked at in the unstructured environment as much as in the classroom? Because I would bet that most of the issues occur in unstructured, like the bus, at recess, at lunch, and elsewhere. So I almost feel like that's where we really have to really get eyes and ears and targets and. But, so I may be, sometimes I ask leading questions, this is another one.
I think that's a great question.
It's good. That's a great question.
And I think that, more than ever, I also went with the training this year for the MTSSB. And again, multi-tiered systems of support has been around for quite a while. And it's only just been recently, for the past few years, that they added in the B. And the B is for behavior, because they were recognizing that, multi-tiered systems of support, we're all looking at academics.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just academics. We need to make sure that we're addressing the behaviors of students. And again, ever since the pandemic, that social emotional learning, that's been a key area also that's been brought in.
And Ken, I would also add that, I think that's a great point that you brought, like, are we looking at the unstructured time? We are. I think we address it more at the whole school assembly piece, where we do the school-wide expectations. A lot of those unstructured interventions are mostly done by either Mrs. Boulay or I, or the special ed admin, or the counselor. We're not bringing bus concerns to the teachers to deal with. We take care of those. If it's, if it's lunch, it's usually us taking care of those as well. And oftentimes, the students that are receiving Tier 2 instruction are different than the students that are having the write-ups for the bus,
I figure, yeah.
So, but I think that's an interesting way to look at it and something we should reflect on, so.
Can I just add to this, because I think with the unstructured time, I think it also goes back to what Colleen brought up about the consistent tier one daily recognition of SEL teaching and programming within our school communities, because if it is consistently done as a classroom community, right? When the students are then in that unstructured time, we might be able, it may just inherently mitigate some of these issues that could be happening during the unstructured time. But if we are not consistently working with our students and teaching them and helping them understand kindness or take a pause and, or, take a stand if necessary, or, understand the difference with all those hurtful words, or how to handle when they find themselves in a situation, because SEL programming, even 10 minutes a day, can help our students with those things. So when they find themselves in unstructured time, one, we're equipping our students to handle better. Two, we're equipping our students to not engage in a lot of those behaviors as well. So I think while there might be a gap, it's also related 100%. And I'm late to the game on Choose Love in our district. And I fully admit I still have not fully looked at the program in and of itself. But if it is not the right one for our district in terms of SEL programming, we have a responsibility to find one that our teachers and our administrative body and our school communities will truly use, because, and I think I asked this at the last one, what the buy-in was, but I don't even like the word buy-in, because it really needs to be, our community needs to own it and believe in what it is that they're doing. And if they just see this program as a once in a while, it's great guiding principles, but I don't actually have the capacity in my brain to push it out, that then I'm not going to enforce it with my kids and my students in my classroom. So I think that's something we also have to take a hard, honest look at. If that's not the right program, it's not the right program. And that's okay, because there are plenty out there supported by CASEL. There are plenty out there. So I would also, I don't know if you had an opportunity to kind of look at how effective, since we've implemented Choose Love, if we know how effective it's actually been in our district. And if we haven't, I would be interested in that conversation as well at some point. So, sorry to derail.
No, that's great.
And just to jump in, and that is part of our research and our work over the summer, is to be looking into the programs that can be used at the tier one level. So just so you understand, that's part of this process with the MTSS overhaul and implementation, because the teachers have spoken, as we've had these discussions, about having some consistency, and we, of course, agree with that piece. So that's part of our work as well.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
So this slide is about just support that we provide staff with. We have a mentor program that all new staff go through, where there's monthly meetings at the building level, and then I believe it's quarterly at the district level. And then every new teacher goes through the orientation, new hire orientation, before the school year starts. They're also paired with every new teacher is called a mentee, and they're paired off with a mentor that they can go to for just support, guidance, to help make that first year as successful as possible. Our opening week training, that's a 3-day training where when staff return back to school, Mrs. Boulay and I have a schedule that we share with staff with trainings, professional development opportunities. We review our staff handbook. We review all the guidelines, our expectations for the school. It's a collaborative time for all of our staff to give feedback, and it kind of just paves our way for the school year. And then all of our staff have opportunities for professional development growth. They can attend classes, workshops. There's an approval process that they go through, and there's a set of money through the contract that they have access to, so that they can get those opportunities. And then there's a page in the packet, I believe it's the last page. It's called Prohibition on Teaching Discrimination. And few things we wrote here were SAU 41 is prohibited from stating that people of a protected class are inherently superior or inferior, are inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment, cannot or should not treat others equally and without regard to a protected characteristic. And that sheet is, the sheet that you have in your packet, that's something that's passed out to all of our Brookline staff at the opening week, and we review that as a staff about just some guidance about when engaging in conversations that are dealing with what we talked about this evening. So
Earlier this evening.
this evening, yeah. So
May I ask a question about your mentor program? Who oversees that program? Is it a teacher, is it an administrator?
I do.
yeah, she's right there.
Cool. Thank you for doing that. Do you have any concerns that you're out of the administrative unit and that teachers and new teachers might find that a little intimidating?
So we have undergone some changes to the program. This year we implemented kind of phase 1 of a revamp program. Next year will be phase 2, and then will be phase 3 as well. So there's varying levels of. So I just oversee the whole program, write the grants for it, develop the structure, the contracts, et cetera. But I'm available to any teacher and all of that, but I'm not there interfering with that mentor-mentee relationship, so they could have a trusted.
Okay.
We also have the instructional coach that we added this year, so there was another body to provide coaching from a non-evaluative perspective, and they could engage in that reflective process.
Just wondering if there would be a benefit to having a teacher who kind of oversees that program, so that if a mentor doesn't know how to help their mentee, they don't necessarily have to admit that to an administrator.
Yep, so there's a building
there's
coach.
a chain
Yep,
there?
there absolutely
Okay.
is. There's a building coach who is a teacher in each building.
Perfect.
That
That's-
serves as that person.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure every layer of support for our teachers is there as well.
Yep.
So, thank you. I appreciate that.
So Dan, on this, this sounds like, I'm sorry, what I'm saying when I say this is the prohibition of teaching discrimination. I'm getting the sense that that is a cause of concern from teachers because the lines can be gray and there's fear of repudiation.
And that came out about 2 years ago when we had House Bill 2, I think it was.
Yep.
And that was in response to
Right.
that. So we actually adopted that from the Bedford School District. And
You adopted.
that document was originated from the Bedford School District, and we used that as a
Okay, so
guideline.
this is House Bill 2 you're referring to?
Yep,
Okay.
exactly. And we used that at our opening days because it was a hot topic, not this past fall, but the fall before, so 2021, about teaching about discrimination, so.
So has there, and I figured that was why you had mentioned it. Are there things coming out that are like a catalog type program so that you can have these that have gone through a legal aperture but still talk about things? Rather than putting the onus on a teacher that's maybe fearful of stepping over the line, I don't think either of you are gonna know the answer, I'm just saying that out loud, as part of the programming, that's probably an invaluable piece, because then it's gone through that legal review, and we're not worried about teachers, they're hitting a play button now versus being worried about stepping over a line that could cause them whatever the suspension or penalty or something that goes through that review then.
I think we've done a nice job, but I think if you talk to faculty, that concern still exists.
Like that.
It's definitely, when I talk with the faculty, there's definitely a, kind of what I'll say, a looking over your shoulder type of thing. And I think that's one of the things that has become concerning with education, and why a lot of educators are questioning staying in the field, because they want the freedom to teach and to address issues as they come up, but they're very cautious because of the licensing impact of it, potentially.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just say that as something that, as we look at all this, I'm hopeful that maybe something either regionally or nationally has been developed because of that concern, of exactly what you're talking about, Andy.
And if staff do have concerns, they certainly come to administration. We support them through that process, along with the support of the SAU, so that we can address it appropriately. Our next slide is about community partnerships, and as you saw in the slideshow, we had an image of the military heroes that we have, opening up holiday cards. That's a challenge that both RMS and CSD participate in. You saw an image of one of our staff members bringing donations for share around the holidays. Our Brookline Food Pantry project, that's out of RMS, is a year-long project, and this past fall, in August, we had Lynn Lyons, who is a clinical social worker and psychotherapist. We gave a presentation at the Hollis Brookline High School gymnasium for any staff that wanted to go or any family. And this is just an image of the food pantry project numbers. We have a group of third grade students that, as an extension for their math, because they're doing so well in math, they meet with Mrs. Winters and they calculate the number of food items they've collected as a school, the number of ounces, and then they also calculate how many meals were provided. So as you can see, quite a few meals each month, and they've done great work. And I want to thank all of our students, Mrs. Winters, but also just the donations from our families in Brookline have been just tremendous. We have got an outpouring of support. If you visit the town hall, which is where the pantry is, in the lower level, it's like a little mini supermarket in there. It's really well stocked, well organized. So it's been a great program that we want to continue working with. And then Mrs. Billy will show the FY24 goals that we have, and I'll show the FY25.
Our goals this past year were the implementation and the continued development of the MTSS process. This coming September, we are, at both schools, we are going to have Plymouth's Tiger program come to each of the schools. And basically it would be to supplement Choose Love or a different program if we choose it. We also are hoping to have parent workshop night with the Plymouth State University Tiger group. And basically Tiger takes on bullying. They have a video and it has the tiger. T is, first of all, working together. I is for inspiring others to greatness. G is giving to others. E is showing empathy and compassion. And R is respecting yourself and others. So that's their motto, and that's the teaching that they bring.
And if you go on the Tiger website, they've got all those videos available. Anybody can view them. It's really well organized. There's a nice library of all those topics. And then for
Dan, real quick, Trish, is that Plymouth State program, or is that
Yes.
a national?
Yes,
program?
Plymouth State.
runs
Yeah,
it.
it's through their master's degree program.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
They've been doing it for years. Yep.
Yeah, I think they just finished their 20th year. Yeah. Goals for FY25, we're going to work on just that phase 2 of MTSSB, increase staffing to address MTSSB. We talked a little bit about this earlier tonight. It could be a range of people, but are we looking for a social worker? Are we looking for another school psychologist, a behavior specialist, whatever that is to address those needs? Include potential stipend work for staff for MTSSB process and department work, and we're going to continue to explore academic and evidence-based behavior programs, continue our partnership with Tiger, and repropose the hiring of lunch and recess monitors, just to get more eyes, more hands on deck during those times of the unstructured times.
I have a quick question. Is there a reason, so we talked a little bit about unstructured and MTSSB and Tier 1 a fair amount already. What's the thinking behind FY25 as opposed to FY24?
Like, why aren't we accelerating the FY25 versus?
I'm just sure.
Why is this not FY24?
It
For
feels
which
like
components? For
the
which components?
MTSSB, I guess, is when we talked about the Tier 1 and teaching on
Yeah.
a daily basis. That sounded like, to me, the big
Yeah.
aha moment so far. So I guess my concern is, why not next year?
No, that is FY 2024. So if you go back to FY '24, we are implementing the MTSS process. The FY '25 will be
That'd be
building
phase
upon
one.
it
Okay.
with what those extra needs
Got it.
are.
Thank
But
you.
we'll be building on it, but we will be instituting.
Which would have budgetary constraints, so
Right.
we,
Exactly. Right.
this July, we have to, put a ton of things in the budget and see how long they last.
Exactly.
But really upon this foundation, to take the data that we have, and to put in requests for positions, plural, that can support the data that we see and then
Yep.
the work that we're doing. for
Thanks.
FY25.
And basically, part of phase one, though, is also still gathering more data of the things that we're going to start to implement, that we're putting together this summer. Basically, MTSB is a 5-year plan.
Okay.
So there's a lot of components to it.
And then over the summer, though, with some of the before school, that would be part of the teachers' rollout too, where they're learning some of that before they come back into the classrooms.
Right, so
Okay.
that's what Dan and I will be doing during that opening week. But
Okay.
we're also encouraging teachers to come, I apologize for my voice, the allergies. We're encouraging teachers with professional development opportunities to hopefully join
Okay.
the committee this
Yep.
summer.
Oh, yeah, that's
Thank you.
Yeah, we have staff in both buildings who are interested in participating in this work and then in the work that we're putting forward. As part of this process, there's also the development of an MTSS handbook and manual, along with all the supplemental information that we're talking about, with what those interventions are and what those programs are for each of the tiered levels. So that's information that we can share with you as that's built. That's already been started.
Okay.
And that'll be built upon throughout the course of the year. That can guide these FY25 asks and requests.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that information.
Thank
It was
you.
very helpful.
You're
Do you guys have any other questions? All right.
I have one more.
Go ahead.
I know I've been drilling on, I'm sorry. As an observation, for a K through 3, this seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Is part of this rollout too a way to make this a little more first grade brain friendly versus?
We've already, so we started that work in
Yeah.
February. Our staff,
Yeah.
that was the guide for our.
I heard, I just didn't understand what the
yeah.
rollout meant.
Yeah,
So that's what I guess
So
I'm getting at.
we established that
Yeah,
probably about 6 years ago, and that was
Okay.
more of a guide for our staff of just expectations on the building, but we need to work on a student-friendly one. So we started that work back in, I think, early February.
so so I hear, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be a pain, but like, what does student friendly mean, I guess is what is it like?
So
is
the
it
students
like
could actually
a
pick that up
meeting?
and read and see what
Yeah.
it means. There
Okay.
might be a picture on it, so they can say, oh,
Okay.
I have to keep
And
my
we're
hands
planning
to
on having
myself.
them in the classrooms.
So it's like
At-
wall
For
art
each
and
grade
stuff?
level, yeah, we're
Okay.
planning on having them,
Got it.
having
Thank you.
students make posters to interpret it, and there's a lot of different
Got it.
components.
Can I just, thank you so much for all the information. It was really helpful and so thorough, and it did highlight a lot of the positive things we're doing. And sometimes in these meetings, we're just problem solving, right? And it feels like I work in IEP meetings, and sometimes you're not talking about strengths, so this was really good to hear. I do think parents in our community have, except for the ones who might be involved in education and a few others, don't understand why SEL is so important. And so quickly, I just wanted to mention that SEL has been shown in hundreds of studies to improve academic outcomes. Because what I often hear as, well, we want you to focus on academics, and us, the people who are in education, we get that unless a kid feels safe, we can't really focus on education. But a lot of people move to this community for the academic excellence, and they feel like SEL will take away from that, and it absolutely will not. There's hundreds of studies to show that. And more importantly, it decreases mental distress, mental health issues, anxiety and depression, which are now rampant in youth. So there's about 8 things that, again, we're running late here, but for anybody that's really interested in that, maybe at some point we can do a quick bullet point of, you can just look at the main portion of Castle's page to show that this isn't academic or social emotional. In order for our kids to learn, they need to feel safe in the classroom. They need to have the skills to manage their own emotions and to manage conflict. So anyway, I do think that, a lot of people I know, they just don't know it. And I wouldn't have known it either. So it's just another piece. But thank you for all the information.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to echo that too, because we are starting to ask a bunch of questions. There's a lot of good stuff on here too, and I think we'd be remiss not to say that. So thank you for going over that. This was really the meat of what we wanted to get to, and I know we were brainstorming out loud, and I know this summer this is our focus. I guess the last piece is this comment around making a statement has come up. And if we could just spend a minute on that, I'd like to just talk about that a little bit further. I know last meeting we talked, and I said, because I'll be willing to say it, that we were going to go through this, and I'm not sure what a statement's going to do versus seeing action. And I'm open to whatever. I still struggle. To me, statements are nothing more than standalone words. It's the policy, it's the actions we're taking, and the procedures that are meaningful to me. But I guess I just wanted to open that up, because we heard it in public input, and I just want to get the feel of the board to, and make sure we're taking the right steps.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that, we talk about revising policy and changing policies, which absolutely 100% needs to happen. And I think that's, something that happens at a slow pace. And, I know that, one of the emails that a parent forwarded to us, I think, had like an example of, what another school sent out to the parents of the community after there was a racial incident at that school. And I think, that's one of the things that parents are asking for, is for that kind of community messaging or statement that goes out when there is a racial incident in one of our buildings. And I guess my feeling is just, and I don't know, like, we have to speak as a board, we have to speak with a unified voice and not as an individual person. But if the SAU or the individual building administrators are reluctant to send out that kind of messaging, I don't know, I feel the need that somebody needs to, and if it's not them, then maybe it's us.
I guess I was asking, and maybe I'll clarify.
And I know we can't do it like on a
Is-
case-by-case
no.
basis, but just,
I was thinking more of the lines of a statement, not plural. So I guess I'll quantify that too, because I'm not sure that we can make statements to individual incidents.
oh, no,
due
no, no, not
okay.
to individual
Okay.
incidents, but just more to the point of, there's, watch the meetings or read our minutes,
Yep.
There's been some stuff going on, that parents have been bringing to our attention, and we're working on it, but change isn't something that happens quickly, but we want.
Curriculum change and policy change aren't going to happen immediately, and I think that's the struggle that I think people are having, and I respect that fully. But I also don't want to fling something together
Right.
inaccurate, or in a bad way that we ran too fast, and then we're starting over.
Policy can take, and curriculum can take a while to happen, but just letting people know, these are conversations that you should have at the dining room table, because you may not be aware that there's an undercurrent happening, and we're trying to address it.
Okay.
So to answer your question, Ken, about a statement that we're working on this, right? And to Kelly's point that policy takes time to change, if we are in a unified voice that there needs to be a change, right? We've had community members come out time and time again because they don't see the work, right? Because it takes time. So to put something out there, because they may not be able to watch the meetings, they may not be able to see the minutes. And I get your point to that too, but I think just a statement of, the topic of racism and bullying within our schools has repeatedly come up. We do not condone it in our schools. We understand that some of our policies need to change. We want to let the community know that we hear you and we're working on it. It can be as simple as that. It doesn't back us into a corner on anything, but it lets the community know that they are being heard without them having to go dig to find out that they're being heard. And I think that's where I'm coming from. And then just to address, what Kelly, you said about the letter that was brought up from in a previous meeting, I think that speaks to some of the policy change, because in the guidelines that the New Hampshire Department of Ed puts out in terms of writing policy for, responsible bullying, there's an internal, one of the buckets that you have to address when you're writing the policy is internal procedure. We can make that an internal procedure so that any time an incident happens on campus, a communication has to go out. We can write that into our policy, but we're not there yet because we have a lot of work to do. But it wouldn't, given given how much of an issue this is, I feel very strongly, because I know that we as a board are unified in committing to this work, I don't think it would hurt us in any way to publicly state that we are doing this. Yes, words are just words. Now, if we don't follow up on it, like, shame on us, and none of us should be reelected into any of these seats again. But I don't believe that any of us are going to allow that to happen. So I don't think it hurts us to at least just make that statement of, we hear you, we understand it's an issue, we are working on it. We don't even have to detail out the process we're taking. They want more details. Like, okay, then come watch the minutes or email one of us, and we can give you the 30,000-foot view, or we can drill down. But I don't think it would hurt us in any way just to have that unified voice of, we hear you, we don't condone it, and we understand that what is currently in place is not acceptable because it's not working and because it's not supporting all of our learners in our community.
I just also wanted to say, you know, I went back and looked at our board member code of ethics, and it says, uphold the principles of due process and individual dignity and protect the civil and human rights of all. And I think as board members, we have to do that for our students. And I think doing that and putting a statement out and making sure that we're protecting the civil rights and the human dignity, and saying that we're going to work on these processes, we're going to work on these policies. And I think in light of the presentation that was given, looking at these Tier 1 SEL programs, I think we owe it to our children. We owe it to start working with them in kindergarten, to be helping them be community representatives of our community. And I think we really need to make sure that we are upholding our board member ethics.
Thank you. I'd never considered that point of view, and that's actually a very strong point. I absolutely would support putting out a statement. It can be simple. The purpose of a statement is to send a message that we do not tolerate this. There is a belief in the community that we are tolerating this. And I hope we're not, and I do know that, but there's a belief, and when these incidents continue, then we have to at least put out a statement that we're not accepting this. We're not going to allow children to be treated like this. Are we going to be able to stop all of it? Absolutely not, because some of this is coming straight from their parents. And I also think that a lot of what I'm seeing is people are talking about events online, they're talking about events with friends and all of that, but not necessarily reporting it. And I would want to encourage people to report in that statement. Please reach out. Like, I've seen things that have been said to the effect that my child hears this all the time in the hallway, and a parent might not know. That's important information for administration to have. They're not scrolling through social media, well, I assume they're not, like we are, and they don't know what we know. So part of that statement might be to just, if you're hearing this, it's so important that you communicate. And if your child is having issues, we do have to communicate as best we can. So I would support a statement, and it is about human rights and human dignity of some of our most vulnerable populations.
Okay. Sheena, were you about to say something, or did I have it wrong? No. Okay. All right. I guess we'll have to figure out how we want to craft that then, and how to move forward with that piece.
So that was going to be my next question and this is where I apologize in being new to the board. I don't know what that procedure looks like. If we wanted to put out a statement,
We don't put out statements often, so
Right.
that's something we're gonna have to figure out, to be perfectly
Okay.
honest with you. Yeah.
Okay.
The last statement I think we did, was we had a community piece that was, the start of the Choose Love program. I don't remember exactly what, but that was the last statement. So I don't know the answer immediately. I think we'd have to figure that out, and it sounds like a fairly succinct message is the answer today, with more coming over the next couple months. Is that reasonable? Okay. All right, so I don't think we're gonna solve it right now in front of everyone. We'll take that action to look into how we do that then. Okay.
Climate survey?
Sorry?
Climate survey?
Yep, we are, was there a climate survey as part of your, or is that an addendum to what you two just went through, or?
I was just going to
Yeah,
review the.
it's with you, Gina. Okay, great.
The insert in the packet. So as part of the board packet, right, just after the presentation from the principals, we have some information regarding the school district climate survey. And so just a little bit of background, there was a desire to take a look at the culture and climate in the district as a whole. And so we looked at a few different tools, and a couple of board members, along with Superintendent Corey and myself, had a smaller offline meeting to really select a tool and, request the support of the board. And so we went ahead and moved forward with the tool. So the goal was to provide a survey to gain better understanding of the climate in the Brookline schools and to provide a tool that allows all voices to be heard. This particular tool was selected because it was validated and benchmarked. The survey was anonymous. The tabulated results are intended to be used to inform decision-making regarding allocation of resources, potential further inquiries into staff perceptions, professional development, and then goals for the upcoming school year. This is the first time we've done something of this type, so it's really important to note this is baseline. So we have no idea if we're in an upward trend or downward trend, or if we remain status quo. It simply is baseline data for comparisons purposes for future administration of the exact same climate survey. So one aspect of this particular survey reports out on institutional vulnerability. This is the extent to which the school is susceptible to a few vocal parents and citizen groups. The Brookline School District scored 670, indicating that the Brookline School District's institutional vulnerability is higher than 93.1% of the schools nationwide. High vulnerability suggests that both teachers and principals are unprotected and put on the defensive. So the next step would be, I feel it's critically important for the district to set clear goals and standards for both the schools and the community to improve that vulnerability sentiment. Another aspect that it reports out on is Achievement Press. Achievement Press describes a school that sets high but achievable academic standards and goals. Brookline School District scored 659, indicating that the Achievement Press is higher than 91.7% of schools nationwide. This standard demonstrates that students persist, strive to achieve, and are respected by each other and teachers for their academic successes. Parents, teachers, and the principal exert pressure for high standards and school improvement. The Brookline School District has a strong reputation as a high-achieving school district, and it's really critically important to balance the pressure with the support and collaboration within the community. The third aspect of the survey is collegial leadership. It's directed toward both meeting the social needs of the faculty and achieving the goals of the school. Brookline School District scored 531, indicating that collegial leadership is higher than 60.5% of schools nationwide, which is above average. The principal treats teachers as professional colleagues, is open, egalitarian, and friendly, but at the same time sets clear teacher expectations and standards of performance. It's important to note that the stress associated with institutional vulnerability and Achievement Press directly impact the result of the collegial leadership. Finally, the survey reports on professional teacher behavior. Professional teacher behavior is marked by respect for colleague competence, commitment to students, autonomous judgment, and mutual cooperation and support. The Brookline School District scored 873, indicating that professional teacher behavior is higher than 99% of schools nationwide. The Brookline School District is staffed by professional and support staff who have a high degree of respect for one another and serve as examples for the community of young learners. So as I mentioned, the administration of the survey tool should be treated as baseline data. However, the district should take appropriate steps to mitigate the identified concerns So the superintendent and I can review how the strategic plan addresses the needed areas of focus to develop both FY24 action steps and FY25 budget proposals accordingly. The Brookline School District Policy Committee should work to review the policies with this lens in mind. How do our policies as written or as proposed to be modified support the needs from the survey? The building principals can schedule school-wide assemblies to address critical topics. The building leadership team can partner with PTO to sponsor speakers and develop parent and community seminars. And finally, I recommend that the tool be re-administered in February 2024 to measure growth over 1 year's time.
Thank you so much for putting this together, Gina. Yeah, I think that, I think we knew that our teachers and our principals, especially after last June, we knew that our principals and teachers were feeling the stress and the pressure from, you know, vocal parents and citizen groups. But to see that we have a really high score and that we're higher than 93% of benchmarked districts nationwide or schools nationwide is really concerning to me. And I think it's really important that we have this data. I think it quantifies something that we kind of knew, but I think it identifies it, you know, as a critical need for us to look at. Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm just gonna say a second what Kelly said. You said it perfectly. You know, and I think the 60.5 is something that can be worked on. This is all data, and data can be worked on, and other districts have done this. So if we look at it with that objective lens, it's all about, a lot of this is about people's feelings, and that can get dicey, but objectively, other schools have had scores like this, and how do they improve? And I'm glad that we're gonna make that a priority and reissue this. I'm glad we now have more support for the principals. We have an assistant principal coming in. We now have a new special ed administrator in the building, I think. So a lot of this and full staffing will help, but we also really need to talk to teachers somehow. We're not allowed to, I get that, but just understand, why do they feel vulnerable, unprotected? Why do administrators feel vulnerable and unprotected and put on the defensive, and change that, I guess. So I said I was just seconding, but I'm done.
Was there a section on this for open comment?
No.
Is that something we might consider? Because to Colleen's point of why are they feeling the way, was there any conversation or thought of opening that up?
There was, because we chose a validated tool that was benchmarked, that didn't have, we wanted people not to feel like it was identifiable, and if people were writing in handwriting, and there's great tools that require a lot of, you know, IT infrastructure and sort of like secure servers and randomization of IDs and stuff that we certainly could do, and I think it would allow us to get that kind of information and have it be anonymous. But because this was the first time that we were doing anything like this, we, like, again, wanted it to be a validated tool, so we didn't want to like pick and choose items from different tools or add open response, which might change how it can, you know, how it's benchmarked.
Yep, no, that makes sense.
So, but I think there definitely was, a desire for that from members of the board to have an ability to do that. I just don't have a perfect tool for that.
No, there is no perfect tool.
No, this was the quicker rollout to get baseline data that was standardized, because we had talked about very open-ended, and it just didn't feel like we were gonna get a baseline and where we needed to get to start. I mean, we can see at least where we're doing well and where there's an opportunity as a board and focus.
Thank you.
I do hope we can administer it again. I know when budget season comes around, which is the most wonderful time of the year. I hope maybe there'll be some discussion and thoughts around doing it again in the next year.
Okay. We are moving on to our discussion section, and we'll start with our FY23 revenue and expense update.
Okay, so this report was done as of 5/15. There's really not a whole lot of change from the month prior, except change can happen fast, because since 5/15, again, we had that unanticipated 40,000 that Kelly had to revamp the memo for. So, but bottom line, there hasn't been huge change. If the two public hearings get approved, then we stand in a pretty good spot of having a tiny, actually no projected fund balance. That could change though, actually. I mean, things change so fast, and within this next month, hopefully, we'll have some more savings.
But we, with the moves that we are proposing here, are whole on everything though, right? By moving with what we did with the first and second trusts.
We're in a hold, what do you mean?
We're whole, like in a good position.
Yes,
Yeah, okay, all right.
yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay, we're on to our general assurances.
In the board packet, again, this month we provided you with general assurances. That is just a statement that the board chair would sign the form saying that the district adheres to all the procedures around the federal grants. We get IDEA, we get food service, a number of different things, and this is the yearly acknowledgement that the board is aware that we get those funds and that we have to comply with certain procedures and policies, mainly overseen by the business manager and the assistant superintendent who oversees those grants. So that'll be coming back for a vote very shortly under deliberations. And then with the chair's permission, I'll turn it over to Carol Tyler to do a little presentation. We have a new website coming on board, and she'll explain why.
Great.
Thanks for having me. I'll just make sure I'm connected.
I have one right here.
Everybody like the new board?
I was thinking, like, this better work, but this is fancy. Now that you're on stage right now.
Lots of bells and whistles. There's two of the interactive flat panels. They are great. So back, not so recent, not so in the distant past, I was talking about a new website, and here we are again. So you may be wondering why. The company that we use to host the website is called School Point, and shortly after we launched our new website, they were purchased by Finalsite. So we were forced to migrate to a new platform and move all our content to Finalsite, which then meant that we had a website redesign coming, whether we liked it or not. So here we are. We put it off for a while in order to put together a committee to review our current website, what wasn't working, what we liked, what we didn't like, and then to move forward with something that we thought would be better serving the school district, parents, and the community. So the committee assembled about, I would say, 9 months ago, and we had SAU staff on the committee, Patrick West, the principal of the middle school, school board member from Hollis, and anybody else? I think that's about it. Yeah, Gina, our communications and compliance specialist, and the school board member was Amy Kellner, the president of the House School Board. So, like I said, we looked at least 100 different websites, and our goals were menus that made sense, ease of use. We felt like our current website was a little hard to navigate in places. We also wanted helpful pages with new content. From a lot of the questions we were constantly hearing was a lot of, how do I find this information, or I don't see anything about this topic. And then we also wanted a nice pleasing design. Our website was starting to look a little old, even though it was only not even 3 years old. So this is a screenshot of our new site. I'm going to show you the menu structure, and then we'll move to the live site and do a quick demo. So on our new site, this is the SAU homepage. We have dynamic boxes that clearly show the schools, and you can click to any school and go straight to that school. We have content about news and events that will pull from all buildings, and then the calendars will pull here too. We have the same by the numbers, just facts about the SAU on the homepage. But a nice thing that we really wanted was 3 tiers of menus. So this top menu, the black bar, shows district and schools, and if you click on it, the schools will show up here, so you can easily navigate between any of the schools or back to the SAU. The second banner is for families, for staff, and then inquire. And we felt like this was an area of the website that we were kind of missing out on, focusing on families. So I'll get to a little more about that later. And then the main menus are just the main school navigations to talk about our school, the school boards, the departments at the SAU level, and then resources. On to the school homepages. And I will just go straight to the demo here, and we can kind of go through the new features and what we've changed, and then I'll just show you some sample pages. So this is the school homepage, and I will fast forward to the live site. So I'll go over to RMMS. And it's a little slow. There we go. So we have a nice big graphic. We have the 3 tiers of menus here, and then our school, and we have the ability to add pictures here, and then really have the menu items easy to read and make sense and easy to navigate too. Going on down the page, we talk a little bit about the school, and then here's news and events. And this is an opportunity for us to highlight those things that we're excited about. Like Dan talked about the food pantry project. It's right here on the front page. You can read more about it if you click. Field Days coming up, there's a little blurb about it, and then underneath we'll have all your calendar events for RMMS, and on the district page it would be all calendar events in the district that can pull from there. Then it's the school by the numbers, and again, we like bright graphics, easy to read, and you can see the data points for the school, and then links at the bottom. And some of our menu items you're going to find in a lot of different places. Like I said, one of the issues with our current site is people said they couldn't find things, so we do have repeated menus in places. If you want to find the faculty and staff directory, you can find it down here, but you can also go to the top of the page, and under school, you can meet the staff. So if we click here, so it's meet the staff. We have, again, the school name, the principal, the address, and then the staff is listed here. Their names, what their role or position is, and if you click on a teacher, you can get more information. You can actually click the button if you want to email that teacher. And we will add, it might say grade level, but this is, we're in the preliminary stages. The site is launching June 30th. So we're still building content, but I just wanted to show you a preview. So that's a nice new feature, the Meet the Staff. Then we also have, let's see, some really exciting pages, and one is the RMMS Family Portal. Each school will have their own family portal. And when you select that, this is the page that we felt like we were really missing. It's your one-stop shop for, as a parent, you want to find out what's going on at the school, or you want resources just for RMMS. We have helpful links here, so you can click Pick Up Patrol. You can find the calendar. You can get right to Power School. You also have the principal's message, district messages here, and school newsletters. You also have the community flyers now are posted on this page. And then the tabs right below here, we also have documents and resources. So if you're looking for anything related to RMS, you can find the handbook. There's a link to the PTA, the after-school program, and so on. Let's see if this works better. Another new feature we have is all the questions that weren't getting answered that we thought people might have. So we have an FAQs page. And here we have broken up the frequently asked questions into different categories. And then we also have, we know there's questions out there that we don't know. So we have how can we assist you, and you can actually submit a question right here in that form. We'll just go right into Final Site, and then we can export that information and get back to people. So, for example, you want to, if you're new or you're just, it's somewhere, you came in somewhere through the year and you don't know the process for finding out your child's next year teacher, you can click on the plus and it will tell you how you're going to find out your child's next year teacher. So these are just, most of the standard questions that we thought parents may want to know, and we will continue to add to this list.
A quick question. When a parent submits, I love this, by the way. This is fabulous. When a parent submits a question, you said it goes right into Final Site. Does a specific staff member get notified that a question came in? Because if that question doesn't end up on the website, then I'm assuming we're still going to answer it, right, via email or something, even if it doesn't maybe become an FAQ?
Yep, you can
Okay.
set up that role and that link to the,
Perfect.
RMS webmaster or, the principal, whoever we designate, and that they will get notified of those form submissions.
Love it.
The parent portal is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really high marks on that. That's great.
I can get rid of my school folder on my bookmarks bar with Power School,
We
pick
hope
up
to
control,
continue to add, we did
menus.
this at a lot of sites, and
it's
this
great.
was one thing that we were really excited to bring forward.
Love it.
Something else we're really excited about is our new student registration page, which is right here. So, say you're coming in from California and you're not sure, you know that you just moved to Brookline, but you only noticed 2 schools in town and can't figure out what the progression of schools will be. So first of all, we talk about what it, the SAU and that the community as a whole, but then we talk about where you live, your progression of schools right here, which we've never had before, but it kind of makes sense that it should be listed. Yep. Then on the left, we have the required registration documents, and again, you can open the link to find out what that means. What if I came from another country and I don't have a birth certificate? What else you might use? So those are your list of required documents. Then we talk about what residency means in living in Hollis or Brookline, and then we have school-specific information. So if you have a child that, you need to register children at 3 different schools, you can click each one and find out a little more about the school right here. Because it's RMMS, you might need to fill out the developmental history form, and then you can move on and also call the office to make an appointment.
That's great.
Okay, so then one more page you're probably really interested in seeing is the school board page.
Yes.
So the school board page has a link on every school website plus the district site.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be set up pretty similar to the current site. Your links are on the left. Talk about the meeting times here. Your meetings and agendas are here for about another 30 days, but I'll get to that in a second. Then the Brookline board members are here. List your name, your position or role, when your term expires, and then what committees you're on. And these are all accordion, so if you want to hide that, then you can look at policies under review or helpful links. Okay, so on to our meetings and documents and policies. We just 2 weeks ago purchased new software called Board Docs. And it will house all your meetings, agendas, and policies. We don't have it set up yet. Our goal is to have it implemented by July 1st. That's a very tight schedule to get all that data in there. But certainly by the beginning of the school year, we'll have that, and I can show you what it looks like for another district. but I don't have anything but the logo yet. So this is the Hanover School District, and this is Board Docs, the software. On the left, it shows meetings, and if you click on a meeting, you got to the meeting, the date, the time. You can view the agenda, print the event agenda, look at the minutes, but then also up here, you have links to all the agendas, if you scroll down, and then policies are here and listed. And this is what ours will look like, and it will just be a link or an icon that you can click on and get to from the board page.
I will just add one thing about Board Docs, which is sort of exciting. So when you do a search on in our old policy database, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But let's say best case scenario, it would work and you could find bullying. But now you can do a search and it'll bring up, and if you select it, any policy that addresses bullying, any times it was addressed on the agenda, any supporting documents, so it does a full comprehensive search.
And does this mean that we'll be hosting our policies on our own server?
Yes.
But they won't be on our server, they'll be on the Board Docs server.
But they're not.
Backup copies.
That website's back up though. Right. I saw that email, right? So.
Their sample policies are back up, ours are not.
Ours are not.
They have a phone call tomorrow.
Okay, all right.
Well, I will say something about that in a second, but I do want to say I came from a district that I've been using Board Docs for the last 17 years.
Okay.
It is easy. Never in my 17 years have I had an issue accessing, I was afraid to say that, but never in my career had I had an issue accessing policies or docs, and it's pretty intuitive, and that was one of my frustrations when I came here, was like, I was pretty vocal about that too, I couldn't find anything, and part of that was because I came from Board Docs, which is straightforward, and as to Gina's point, like, I would search for something. The first time I searched for something, I was like, what is this? There was so much stuff that came up because it was years worth of stuff, which was great. So thank you. That is fabulous. And I applaud you guys for the work you've done on this. And Board Docs is a selection. That's exciting.
Yes.
Yay.
So
That's great.
we're in the implementation stage.
Excellent.
Do you have any questions on the website or anything else you would like to see?
No, thank you, it's amazing.
I have one thing. The drop-off and pickup times for the schools, I think, would be really helpful in the FAQs or the time, because I still to this day don't know how to get my kid from the school other than off the bus, and
That's a great idea.
And
I know it's out there, I just don't remember it.
Times and procedure.
Yeah.
Because mid-year, I just started picking up my daughter one day a week. The first time I went, I was like, I was in fear.
It's just, it is, I know, it strikes fear in me as a parent too, so thank you, that'd be great.
Yes, that would be amazing.
I will also say that the committee's convening tomorrow because this is the last board that had this presentation, so any feedback from here or via email or whatever that we receive, we're going to discuss tomorrow. But we will also be sending out a communication alerting everyone that the site is changing drastically on after June 30th, and a little bit of this is how to navigate it. So.
It looks beautiful. It does. It really is fantastic.
So we'll have a page pop on our current website probably at the beginning of June announcing the change. There's no change to the URL. It will be sau41.org. The schools will be my.rmms, mycsda.org. So the links won't change, but we will be sending an email communication and then have the pop-up on our current site.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Great job.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I shift us for a second? Can I go over to your comment about the policies not being back online?
Sure.
And the phone call for tomorrow?
Yep.
I went to the SAU today. I saw some friends up there to pick up a copy of one of our policies. As a temporary measure, if we don't know when this is going to come back up, I am willing, if the board agrees or would allow me to, I am willing to scan in, organize and catalog every single one of our policies and get them up online on a shared Google Drive that way we can electronically give copies as needed. I'm willing to do that. It will only take me a couple hours, given the size of the binder. But I am more than willing, if that is a temporary measure that we want to talk about. I have a PDF scanner, so I'm happy to do that because I had to drive to the SAU today, and like, I've been waiting, and I clicked again, I'm like, this is not okay, it's still not up. So, just as a temporary fix until July, I don't know how we go about, do I need an okay to just take the binder and go do that? Like, what does that look like?
I mean, I can easily scan the copy that you received, and just upload it as a large file. Or I could do it by section A, B, C, et cetera. And we can post that right now. It's just because we're building and trying to maintain 2 sites at once in terms of updating, to dive deeper into putting more hours into that. I don't know if that's the best use of time, but I can certainly scan by section and then post that, and we should do that for all 3 districts.
And I understand that, which is why I'm willing to do it for
appreciate that.
you, if you would like me to. Or, to your point, maybe if you could stick it on the copier and just scan in section 1, section 2, section 3, and then just which is in which section, and if somebody needs to scroll, somebody can scroll, but at least it's a temporary gap stop for our community, for those that can't drive over to the SAU in the middle of the day. So if you'd like me to do that, I'm happy to, because Gina, you have a lot going on, so I'm happy to, if you'd like me to take care of that. Whatever works.
We'll connect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seriously, perfect.
Okay. Very good. Okay, we are moving on to deliberations. We have 3 this evening, and I'm going to make motions, and then we'll talk about them. First one is, I'll make a motion to approve the use of an amount up to $60,000 from the Special Education Trust Fund to cover the cost of unanticipated special education expenses. So could someone second that? I think I have the wrong number, though, right?
Yes, we
Yeah,
raised
I was just going to go
Up
check.
to 100,000 on a new memo today.
Going to rescind that. Make a motion to approve the use of an up to $100,000 from the Special Education Trust Fund to cover the cost of unanticipated special education expenses.
I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, let's put it to a vote. All in favor? 5-0. Very good, thanks. I'm going to make sure I validate before I read this time. Yep, okay. Second one, I will make a motion to approve the expenditure of $108,162 from the FY23 retained fund balance to cover the cost of the required ADA project.
A second.
Second? Any further discussion on that piece?
Sounds like a perfect use.
Get it done.
Perfect use. Okay, put it in vote. All those in favor? 5-0. Excellent. Okay, this last one is as lengthy as the document itself. Make a motion to authorize the board chairman to represent the school board and acknowledge that the superintendent has consulted with all members of the school board in furtherance of the school board's obligations, including those enumerated in RSA 189-1A, and pursuant to the school board's oversight of federal funds, the district will be receiving, and of the general assurances, requirements, and definitions for participation in said federal programs. I need a second for that.
Second.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You also have to repeat it.
Yes. Can you say that again? No.
I have a question.
Please.
Before my computer died, I was just reviewing that. And one of the insurances in there is about the gun-free school zone. And I just wonder what our obligation as a board is in signing this when the state of New Hampshire says that the state of New Hampshire doesn't have to abide by any federal gun laws.
In terms of board compliance, what you're doing is you're recognizing all the different pieces that exist. As far as how we proceed with a case, whether it be in Brookline or Hollis, we would notify the local police department, and they would come and they would deal with the situation. I don't think you'd have a non-compliance issue.
Okay.
But you'd have a discussion with that individual why we don't permit weapons on the property.
Okay, great, thank you.
Very good. Anything else? All right, all those in favor? 5-0, excellent. Okay, so now we have a non-public this evening. Let me make sure I'm in the right spot here. Okay, so I will make a motion that the board by roll call go into non-public session pursuant to RSA 91A32A, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee, and RSA 91A32C to discuss a matter which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of a person other than a member of the body or agency itself. Need a second, please? Seconded by Kelly, and this is a roll call vote. Tracy, we'll start down there with you.
Aye.
Aye.
Kelly, aye.
Ken, aye. So we are in non-public at 8:40. Thank you.